My name is Julie Wisco and I'm the Year 5 teacher at Roadheath Primary School, and I'm the team lead for our Out of This World project. And here with me I have the rest of our team. I have Claire Feasy, who is a sports scientist from MMU. You might recognise her, she is at Feasicals2Tim. She tweets you fairly regularly. I also have John Randall, who is doing all our Train Like an Astronaut work. Caroline Sinclair, who's doing a lot of maths in school. We've got the IT wizard, Sharon Ross, and our head teacher, who is printing on the 3D printer and teaching our children how to construct things for you to take to the ISS. Okay.
Well, hi, Julie, and the rest of the team. It's really good to meet you all. If I could keep looking over there, it's because you're up on a big screen, so I can see you really clearly up there. So thank you for those introductions, and it's really nice to be able to put faces to names.
Excellent. Right. Not only have I brought the team here, but we've brought the entire Roadheath Primary School. So 200 children have come here today to Manchester Metropolitan University and Crewe just to talk to you. And I want to say a huge thank you to ESA, all the people at ESA and MMU who have made this event possible. So let's say a huge good morning again to Tim Peake.
Good morning, everybody from Roadheath. It's great to be talking to you this morning.
Now, you know, Tim, that we are currently involved in a major whole school space project which is based around your mission to the ISS. And we're currently working our way through our objectives and our space passports. Can we wave them, guys? And one of our key objectives has been to talk to you. So that's one of the ones we can definitely tick off now, isn't it? Another of our objectives was to launch a balloon into space in March. And I don't know whether you've received my question, but we were wondering if you've come up with a name for our mission into space.
Well, I thought keeping it simple and just going for the ballistic balloon, I thought was perhaps a good one.
Does that sound good, Roadheath? Yeah! Right, that's fab. So that's what will go on our payload then, right into space. Now, we've come here for the children and we've come here to ask you questions. So I think we'll start off with our first pair of questions. So we've got Daniel Lewis from Year 3 and Isaac Capes from Year 5. So if you'd like to stand up, guys.
What first interested you about space?
Hi, Daniel and Isaac. And sorry, what was the question?
And what inspired you to become an astronaut?
So what interests me about space? Do you know, really, I was interested in space right from an early age, just by looking up at the stars, and I loved, you know, gazing at the universe and sort of wondering about the big questions as what's out there and what are stars and planets made of. And then from there, really, I became more and more interested in flying, and then as an army pilot, I became a test pilot and started working closer with the space industry, and finally had this wonderful opportunity to become an astronaut. So it's been really a lifelong passion that started from that first moments of gazing up at the stars and sort of wondering about the universe, and then having this sort of curiosity to want those questions answered. And now finally I'm part of the machine that can actually go up into space and hopefully answer some of those questions. I've also been really fortunate to be inspired by many people along the way, right from the early days of school, having some great school teachers. I was in the cadets at my secondary school, and I had a wonderful teacher who led the cadet force, who was a great inspiration and a great role model. And also throughout my military career, I've had some great leaders as well who have inspired me. And certainly within the space industry, of course, there have been some wonderful astronauts who I look up to, who have done some amazing things. And one of the greatest things, I think, is a guy called Bruce McCandless, who went out of the shuttle cargo bay in a jetpack and nothing else, no tethers, and just took himself off into space with just this jetpack. And I think that's one of the most amazing things you could possibly do.
Thank you, Tim. I think some of the Roadheath children would like to be astronauts. Put your hands up if you want to be an astronaut. There you go. You see how inspiring you are. So, next question. Ashton Tice from Year 4.
Are you scared of going up into space and why?
Hi Ashton, am I scared about going up into space? Absolutely not. No, I'm more scared about not making it to space. So I'm being very careful for the next 9 months or so, just so that there are no accidents and I maintain all my fitness and my health. But no, we do so much training and we have a wonderful support team and they prepare us for this 6-month mission to the space station so that if there are any problems either in the Soyuz spacecraft on the way up or the way down or during our time on board the space station, we really know how to act as a crew and how to overcome those problems. And it's really down to the training that makes sure that you go into space without any fear.
So we've got a really good question next then, haven't we, from Jack Harrison from Year 3, and it's all about training.
What has been the most challenging aspect of your training so far?
That's a great question, Jack. There is many things that have been new to me in the training, which has been wonderful. I love learning new things. But I think probably the biggest challenge is trying to retain all that information. I was assigned to my mission about 2 years ago, and I've been training very hard for all this time, and I've still got about 9 months to go. And of course, you have to try and maintain as much information as you can about all sorts of different topics, from medical training to the science that we're going to be doing on board the space station, how the space station works, how the Soyuz works, how to do a spacewalk, how to operate the robotic arm. We literally bounce from one subject to another. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge for any astronaut, is just to try and maintain a good level of knowledge in all these different subjects.
That's an excellent answer. That's what we try and do at school, isn't it, guys? Try and remember what we've been taught. Okay, so Rebecca, we've got you next. This is Rebecca from Year 2.
What are you most nervous and excited about?
Wow, that's another good question, Rebecca. I think what am I most nervous about? I'm sure there will be certainly nervous moments when you're sat on top of a rocket and it's just about to launch, something that most people never get to do, and I've certainly never done before, so there'll be a moment of apprehension there, I'm sure. Also, I think spacewalking as well is one of those things where most astronauts say the first time the hatch opens and you go head first through the hatch, and you're just looking at planet Earth 400 kilometers beneath you. There's certainly, it almost feels like you're rock climbing and you're looking down a long, long way. So moments of apprehension probably there. But also, I think that has to be the most exciting prospect, is doing a spacewalk as well. It would be absolutely wonderful if I got the opportunity to do that. But just simply experiencing weightlessness and looking down at planet Earth through the cupola window is going to be hugely exciting. I can't wait for that.
Excellent. Okay, over to Hermione from, this is my class, Hermione, Year 5.
What do you do when you're not in training?
Hi, Hermione. Wow, well, now I'm thinking back to about 2 years ago. It seems like I've been training for an awful long time, and I've still got a lot of training ahead. But no, of course, I like to relax. I love outdoors activities, so I'm always outdoors with my family as well. We're either cycling or walking or camping, and I love diving, for example. I love skiing. So these are some of the things that I like to do, is just get out into the fresh air and exercise. That's the way that I relax and I spend my time off.
Okay, so we've got a really pertinent question now, haven't we, from Olivia, which is about your family, actually.
How do you feel about leaving your family for 6 months, and how do they feel about it?
Hi, Olivia. I think that's probably going to be the hardest moment in this whole journey, is saying goodbye to my family, without a doubt. I mean, I've been away on 6-month tours before previously when I was in the army, so I know what it's like to be away, but this is something slightly different and you're a bit more isolated. So it's definitely going to be very hard to say goodbye. But you know, my family have been so incredibly supportive, and we're all very excited about what's going to happen. And certainly it's just such a positive experience that really that kind of is the main thing.
Excellent. And we have a question here about how good you are at languages.
Can you speak Russian, and in which language do you talk to the astronauts in?
Yes, I can speak a little bit of Russian now. I can certainly understand it much, much better. And in Russia, when we train in the Soyuz, everything is in Russian. All the documentation we read, all the manuals, the language over the radio, it's all Russian. So we have to be pretty good. And also, I'm going to live for 6 months on the space station with 3 Russian cosmonauts. So, you know, I want to be able to talk to them in their own language, and we want to be able to converse. It's quite funny because the astronauts, we don't call it English or Russian, we call it Ringlish, because, you know, they've got a pretty good English, we've got a bit of Russian, and we kind of get by between the two of us in this Ringlish language. So that makes it all go fairly smoothly.
So can you say hello to us in Russian?
Да, конечно, здравствуйте.
Oh, very, very good. Now we have Charlotte, and Charlotte wants to be an astronaut, and she's dressed specially for the occasion, and she wants to ask you a very important question, don't you, Charlotte?
How do you become an astronaut?
So how do you become an astronaut?
Hi, Charlotte. Gosh, that's a hard question to answer. How do you become an astronaut? All of my friends who are astronauts, we've all really done different things to become an astronaut. So it's very hard to tell you sort of one thing to do as how to become an astronaut. I think, you know, what we have in common is we love space, we're really passionate about it, and we've worked hard and we've studied hard to get where we are. And I think really that's the main message, is that, you know, if you've set your heart on something that you really want to do, then just keep going, work hard, persevere, and, you know, your dreams will come true.
Well, we really wanted to speak to you today, and we've done it, so that's really good advice. And so, yes, working hard, that's very, very important. Right, the next question, we've gone now to questions about the ISS. So, Ellie, would you like to read your question out, please?
What do you think it will be like living on the ISS, and will you enjoy it?
Hi, Ellie. I certainly hope I'll enjoy it. I'm sure I will once I get there. I think it's going to be really strange. For the first 2 or 3 weeks, my body will not know what's going on because there's no up or down. So you might look away and then suddenly you realize that you've turned upside down, and the next time you look back to what you're doing, everything's different. And it takes the body quite a long time to adapt to that. But then once you get used to it, everybody says that it's a remarkable feeling being in weightlessness, because you can just move around so quickly and so freely, and you've got so much extra space. If you look around you now where you're sitting, so much of that room you're simply not using. It's got a big tall ceiling. You imagine if you could use all the space in the room that you're sitting in right now, you could all be floating around, and so doing different things in different positions. So I think that's some of the things that are going to be most interesting about living in space.
Right, and we have Rachel Brooks-Smith next from Year 6.
Are you allowed to take personal possessions with you? And if so, what will you be taking?
Yes, you're allowed a very small allowance. It's about, I guess, the size of a shoebox that you can take up with you. So not much space, but I'll certainly be taking some personal things. There are things I want to take, some patches and some T-shirts, of course, and lots of things that I can give out to people when I get back, but also just some photographs of friends and family as well, things to stick up in my small crew quarters, my small cabin that's going to be on board the space station.
So I heard you mention the word T-shirts there. Have you received the T-shirt we sent you?
I can show you right now.
Wow!
It's being proudly worn, the Talk2Tim T-shirt. Thank you very much. Yeah, I love it.
Excellent, excellent. That's fabulous. Right, moving on to Charlotte Rutledge from Year 2.
What is the thing you're most looking forward to seeing in space, and will you send us a photo?
Hi, Charlotte. Yeah, of course, I'll send you lots of photos. I'm going to try and share this mission as much as I can with all of you guys. What am I most looking forward to? I think, seeing some of the pictures that have come back from the space station, when the space station passes into the shadow, so you see night, you see Earth at night, you get wonderful photographs of storms, of lightning, the cities by night. I think they're really fantastic pictures. But probably the most special thing is to see the aurora at the poles, the north and the south poles, where you see that wonderful green glow of the aurora. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
Excellent. Right. Another question from Year 6.
What would happen if you became ill on the ISS?
That's a great question. You know, we go through all of this medical screening and medical testing to try and make sure that we're fit and healthy and we're not going to have any problems on the space station. And also, before we fly, we have to spend 2 weeks in quarantine to make sure that nobody takes a virus, a cough or a cold or flu or anything onto the space station. So you hope that it's a very clean environment and that nobody gets sick. But of course, if somebody does get sick, then we have medical doctors and flight surgeons who are at the end of a camera, just like I'm talking to you, and I can talk to a flight surgeon and we can discuss any problems. There's also medicine on board the space station, so you can take things to try and make yourself better. You could even do minor surgery if you had to on board the space station. And as a very last resort, if somebody was really ill, then of course we have the Soyuz spacecraft and we could put them in there and just return to Earth in about sort of 6 to 12 hours. You could be back down on Earth.
That sounds a bit dramatic, doesn't it, performing minor surgery? Would that be something you would do?
We have been trained in, how to administer local anesthetics, how to do suturing, just in case, for example, somebody had a bad cut or a foreign object that needed removing, something like that. But anything that was more serious than that, if you didn't have a medical doctor on board with you, then you'd probably just come back to Earth and have it dealt with back here.
Yeah, that sounds good. Right, now we have a very long question from Bobby in Year 1, which is quite complicated. So, have you been practicing, Bobby? Right, over to you.
How do you keep a lookout for space debris when aboard the ISS, and how do you respond to a probable impact?
Hi, Bobby. Oh, sorry, carry on.
Just does it happen often, that's all.
Does it happen often? That's a really good question, Bobby. And yes, we have lots of people who are looking out for us back here on Earth using radar. And there are many radar stations. The European Space Agency has one as well here in Germany, where we're tracking all the space debris that we can see in low Earth orbit. And you wouldn't believe there are thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of space debris up there. So the space station has to avoid all of this. And if a piece of debris is going to come too close to the space station, then what will happen sometimes is that the space station will fire its thrusters and boost itself into a different orbit so that it avoids the space debris. And on some very rare occasions, perhaps a piece of space debris is spotted very late and there's not enough time for the space station to do an avoiding maneuver, then the crew would go to their Soyuz and they would shelter in their Soyuz as a safe haven just in case the space station was hit. So we do have all of these plans in place, but the idea is for the space station to not get hit and for all these radar stations keep us safe by tracking all of that debris. That is a great question.
I think you might have been watching Gravity. When you go outside, though, your space suits are quite strong, aren't they? Because I know you can get hit by small pieces, can't you?
That's right. They have about 15 layers of different material, and some of those layers of material are Kevlar. So that gives us almost bulletproof protection because, of course, we're traveling at 28,000 kilometers an hour, and so are other pieces of debris. So it would be, like being hit by a very fast bullet.
Excellent. Well, not excellent. Right. Amelie, you've got another question, haven't you? Amelie from Year 6.
Do you have TV in the ISS, and if so, what do you watch?
Gosh, that's another great question. Yes, there is TV. It's not live TV, but the astronauts can ask for some programs that they enjoy to be recorded, or things like web pages that they might like to read in the morning to catch up on the news. They can ask that to be sent up to the space station. So that's sent up digitally over the satellite telecommunications, and then you can watch that. Something that I love rugby as a sport, so something I'd like to watch, the rugby matches, for example, on a Saturday afternoon, maybe have them uploaded and to be able to watch that in your spare time.
So no EastEnders then?
Wouldn't be top of my list, no.
Okay, right, now we're back to Year 1, and we've got Iona Jenkins, and you've got a question for Tim, haven't you?
I've heard there is a guitar on the ISS. Do you play it, and if so, what is your favourite song?
Hi, Iona. Yes, there is a guitar on the ISS, and I play it very badly. So I probably wouldn't inflict that on any of you guys, but I certainly will in my spare time. I'll probably relax and just go and play the guitar a bit. I'm not very good at it. I can play some Oasis songs and some Coldplay and some old traditional songs, so I might go and do a little bit of that.
Okay, we'll listen out for you. Right, Hannah Taylor from Year 5.
We are learning how to use a 3D printer. Is there anything we could design for you that might be useful on the ISS?
That's a great question, and you know the 3D printer on the ISS is fairly new, and they've already been using it to print out some really useful things. One thing last year was a tool that was quite required, a special tool, and the engineers on the ground heard about this, that the astronauts didn't have this tool, and so they set about designing it, uploaded the file, and then the astronauts were able to print out this tool and use it. So I think that to have the capability to do that is really wonderful. Is there anything you could do right now? Well, hopefully we've got everything we need on board the space station, but if we do need anything, then I'll be certain to give you a call and ask for your help in designing it, and then you can get it sent up and I can print it out.
Have you seen some of the things we've designed already, like the pencil parts?
I did see that. I thought they were wonderful. Yeah, really good.
And I think it's quite remarkable that 9- and 10-year-olds can actually use this software, design something, and then print it out. I think it's fantastic.
I know, it's wonderful. I haven't actually had a chance to do this yet either, so I'm really looking forward to using that on the space station.
Okay, now we're moving on to some more general questions now, and we've got one from a quite interesting one from Emily Pepper from Year 4.
What happens if you sneeze in your spacesuit?
What happens if you sneeze? The worst thing is if anything gets stuck on the front of the screen, on the front of the helmet, because you can't clean it off, so it's there for the whole time. But there's no problem with coughing or sneezing or burping or anything like that in the spacesuit. The spacesuit can handle all of that. But there was one time where I was working in the spacesuit in the big swimming pool in Houston. I was working really, really hard, and I started to sweat. And I was kind of upside down, and the sweat was dripping onto my visor. And I realized how annoying that was, because you can't wipe it clean, and it's there now for 4 or 5 hours. You still have to work with it sort of streaming down the visor, and it makes it hard to see. So we do try really hard to keep our visors nice and clean on the inside.
Excellent. Right. We have Ellie Jepson now from Year 2.
Can you drink fizzy pop in space?
Hi, Ellie. That's a good question. Can you? Yes, you could drink fizzy pop in space. It would be a bit messy because anything that's liquid and that's not contained is just going to float everywhere. But if you could contain it somehow, then yes, you could drink it. One of the things I was really fortunate to do was the Nemo mission, where I lived for 12 days underwater. And what was really interesting there is you could take down a can or a bottle of fizzy pop, and you could shake it as hard as you like, and then open it up, and it wouldn't spray out at all, because the air pressure was so high that it kept all of those bubbles inside the liquid. On the space station, we're at exactly the same pressure that you're at right now, so there would be no difference. If you opened a can of fizzy pop, it would spray everywhere, so you'd have to have it contained to stop it going everywhere.
And do you have a favourite kind of fizzy pop?
I like all sorts of drinks, but I probably won't have anything fizzy on board the space station. There's nothing planned to take up there, but I just like sort of cold orange juices and things in the morning will be fine.
That sounds very healthy. Right, okay, over to Millie from Year 5.
Who were your heroes as a child, and have they changed since you've grown older?
Gosh, that's a good question. Who are my heroes? When I was when I was younger, I loved comic books, and so I had all sorts of heroes in comic books. And yes, they've changed over the years. I think as you grow up, you go from comic books to musicians and following pop music, rock music, etc. And then you get role models throughout your life who inspire you. And I've been really, fortunate to just, like I said before, to really work with some people who have been really inspirational in my life and given me really good direction as well.
And we have our last child question, and I think Claire Feasy would like to ask you a question after that. But over to Oliver, and this is really important. We need to know this, don't we, Oliver?
Did you ever do anything exciting as this when you were in school?
Oh, I missed that question, Oliver. Sorry, could you say it again?
Did you ever do anything exciting as this when you were in school?
Did I do anything as exciting as this when I was in school? I did lots of exciting things in school, but I must say, I think this is probably the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life. But when I was at school, I loved doing sort of outdoor adventure training and activities like that, and rock climbing things, canoeing, and they were what I really found exciting. And I also remember studying projects like this when the space shuttle was flying and it was repairing the Hubble telescope, and remember studying things like Jacques Cousteau and his diving expeditions. And I loved all of that. Anything that involved exploration I found absolutely fascinating, really exciting.
Okay, thank you, Tim. So I know you haven't heard these questions, so I hope they're not too hard from Claire. I think she'd like to ask you something about...
Morning, Tim. Thank you very much for spending time with us this morning. And this is fatal now. They've given me the microphone and I've got you some time with you. As a sports scientist and as a physiologist, one of the things we're really interested in is circadian rhythms and sleep patterns and things like that. And so I wondered if you could just tell the children what it's like on the ISS and how long you'll sleep during the day and how you'll get used to that.
Yes, well, the ISS goes around the Earth every 90 minutes. So we see 16 sunrises and sunsets every day. And if ever any of you have flown anywhere and changed the time zone, you know how bad jet lag can be and how it messes up your circadian rhythm. So if you were to look outside the window and have just a light of 16 sunrises and sunsets each day, it would really mess up your sleep rhythm and you wouldn't sleep very well. So the astronauts do take a while to get used to that. And as I said, there was this kind of 2-week period where the astronauts are adapting to spaceflight. And learning how to sleep is one of those things you have to adapt to. We have some new lighting, actually, that's going up to the space station this year, some new LED lighting that's going to hopefully help with this. And it will start off in the morning with bluish white light, and then it will go from normal white light in midday to soft yellow light, and eventually it will go to red light in the evenings as we're relaxing. And hopefully we're thinking this lighting will assist the body in getting into a natural circadian rhythm so that you get your good amount of sleep in the evenings.
That sounds really exciting. That's very similar to the sort of things that athletes would do when they were travelling. They, for example, when they're on their aeroplanes, they'll set their watches to the time zone where they're travelling to. They'll use sunglasses to get them into the idea of night and things like that. Fantastic. Am I allowed another question? One more question, Tim.
One more.
Thank you. Obviously, one of the things the children will be learning about is the effect of zero gravity on the body. And so I wonder if you could just tell them a little bit about the training that you're going to be doing up there and the treadmills and things like that.
Yes, absolutely. The idea is that we will try and prevent the body from adapting too much to zero gravity. Otherwise, it makes it really hard when you come back to Earth. And some of the difficult things coming back to Earth is the heart muscle, because in zero gravity, the heart has a really easy time because it's not having to pump blood against the force of gravity. So the heart muscle actually shrinks, and the stroke volume reduces. And if you didn't do any exercise on the treadmill or on the bike machine to keep the heart exercising and to keep your heart muscle working, then it would really degrade over 6 months in space. Also, something you don't use a lot of is other muscles. And so we have to work out on an exercise machine where we can do weightlifting. We sound strange lifting weights in space, but actually we're working against a vacuum cylinder that gives us that force. And so we can exercise our muscles and we can exercise our bones so that we don't lose bone density. And between all of these different exercise regimes, most astronauts today are coming back in pretty good shape after 6 months.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And I'm hoping my students are listening because you've just told them everything that I talk about when we talk about detraining. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Tim. I think it's been hugely informative today. I think the children have asked some really good questions, and I think you've given some fantastic answers for us to go away and think about. So I think we've come to the end of our time now. I think we've done 30 minutes. So can we all say a huge thank you to Tim, please, Road Heath?
Thank you, guys. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and thank you for those excellent questions. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
And good luck in November.
And good luck to you too with your space studies.
And keep replying to our tweets.
Of course.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Thank you.